This is Lama Tantrapa. Thank you for joining us for the first installment of our Empowerment Dialogues. I am with Heidi Polendey. She is a student and a fellow coach who wanted to discuss with me today what it means to be empowered and why some of us experience disempowerment from time to time. Right, Heidi?
Yes. Thank you so much, Lama, for the invitation. I want to be living the life of my dreams, and I know that you do too. I'm sure that people out there do as well. And in order to do that, we need to be empowered and realize the places in our lives where we give away our power. That's what I've been coming to awareness. And as you've shared with me before, a dialogue about we're not really always aware of most of things in our lives. The places where I've been disempowered, I haven't even been aware of. So maybe you could share with us the metaphor of the iceberg and how we are not aware of most things.
Oh, certainly. Well, the iceberg is a huge chunk of ice floating in the water, and most of us know that just a tiny tip of it actually sticks above the water, as opposed to 90+% of it residing underwater and largely unseen and unknown. So that huge part of the iceberg that sustains and supports the little tip of the iceberg is so much bigger as compared to the tip that we can see. But that's what we usually notice when we look at it. And it's very similar to the way that we as humans relate to ourselves. Pretty much everybody who I've ever spoken to about this agreed that what we know about ourselves can be considered just the tip of the iceberg as compared to what we don't know about ourselves, which is huge. That huge part of ourselves that we don't know is what sustains and supports the little tip of the iceberg, that identity who we think we are. And that's where most of our power resides. That's most of our human potential is in that unknown part of ourselves. That's why we call it potential, because we haven't actualized it yet. Also, that's where our energy resources can be found, that we haven't tapped, that we haven't utilized yet. And that's one of the reasons why we learn how to connect with a deeper part of ourselves. Developing a clear interface between the tip of the iceberg and the unknown part of the iceberg, so to speak.
Awesome.
And what do you think that interface is that connects the tip of the iceberg to the rest of it?
Well, that is something that I'm just now beginning to explore, and even being aware that it exists. So maybe that's a better question for you to explain.
You actually said it.
Okay.
It's awareness.
It's awareness. Okay. Yeah.
Awareness is what allows you to make what used to be unknown, make it known.
Yes.
Without awareness, there's no way to become aware of something.
Right.
So basically, that is the interface that allows us to tap into our internal resources.
Okay, got it. Yes. And that's how we learn, is through experiences and becoming aware of something. So
yes, indeed.
If you don't mind, I would love to share an example in my own life of how I came to awareness of something that I was completely unaware of.
Yes, please.
So many of you are probably like me and might struggle with technology once in a while. And for myself, this time last year, I was trying to get all my tax stuff done, and I was struggling with a computer program, and I was in tears. I was emotionally discouraged and distressed, and I was mad at myself that I couldn't do what I thought I was supposed to do. And I was so discouraged and so down on myself, and was just having a super bad day. I couldn't see why I was so upset. I couldn't see that I was telling myself a lot of bad things and judging myself as bad. But the thing that helped me see what was happening is a girlfriend of mine who I love dearly, lives down the street, came over that evening, and she was sharing with me the drama that was happening in her life. She was having a really bad day too, because her boyfriend was telling her that she was fat, ugly, stupid, and she was believing him. And for me, it was so obvious to see that she was believing a lie, but she was totally believing it and was in the emotional pain of believing that lie. By being able to see that she was believing the lie and in such pain, and I had been doing the exact same thing all day long.
And you didn't have to wait for somebody to tell you bad things about yourself.
Yeah.
You were telling that
I was
to
telling
yourself.
it to myself. Yes.
And that's probably what happens to most of us. We've been programmed by our parents or siblings or some peers, school children that perhaps were calling us names, or maybe teachers or parents or whoever, who basically installed some unconscious beliefs into our minds. And then we just continue living our lives operating on a faulty software, on a faulty system of beliefs that essentially are undermining our ability to function as fully functional human beings.
Yes.
And that's basically what we call disempowerment,
Yes.
because we have the internal struggle. There is an internal critic or a certain internal bully, even, if you will, who's constantly bullying us. And if we are subject to that internal warfare, we're wasting tremendous amount of energy on that.
Oh, yeah.
So there is very little energy is left to put to some creative use, or even to direct to heal ourselves or improve the quality of our lives. And so our quality of life is going to suffer.
It is, yes.
And not only does it suffer, but also we often do things, tell other people certain things that affect their quality of life too. For example, the boyfriend of your friend probably is not a particularly happy person, because he wouldn't be telling her the mean things that he was telling her if he was a really happy person.
No.
In a sense, we often point the finger at others and tell them how bad they are, because we don't accept our own self.
Exactly, yes.
And so that basically perpetuates the suffering. Just create a snowball effect. The more we do that, the more we realize that everybody is just stupid, ugly, and fat. And the more we tell them that, the more suffering that creates, and basically turns the life that we live into a nightmare.
A nightmare for sure, yes. Yeah. And you know that we're both after living the dream, not the nightmare, which means that we have choices. Back to the awareness part, when I'm on the computer and starting to have a meltdown because I can't get the technology right, so I bring awareness to that aspect and begin to see it, that I have a choice. I can choose to see it as a problem, or I can choose to see it as an opportunity to learn some new skills and focus on my weaknesses and put energy there. Right?
The area of weakness basically is a disempowered part of your being.
Yes. And
the reason why it's disempowered, maybe because there's been some kind of a suppression, or like a wall that you've built around it. And often that's the part of the body that we don't want to pay attention to, or a certain aspect of our own psyche that we deem unacceptable. And so we just compartmentalize and create a sense of like having a crazy relative somewhere in the back room in the house.
Yeah.
And pretend that there's nobody there.
There's nobody there.
Yeah.
We don't want to let that person out. Yeah.
And so, well, that person
is us.
That person is not going to sit there quietly like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going anywhere. They're probably going to start making noise. Probably they're going to try to attract attention, because where attention goes, energy flows.
Right.
So essentially, that part of our being that is being disavowed or suppressed is not going to stay quiet. Exactly the opposite. That's why those parts of ourselves that hurt, or that act out, or that are tense, they are not strong. They're actually weak. Most people confuse tension for strength. Most people confuse acting out for strength.
Yes. Okay.
But it's not the sign of strength. It's actually the sign of weakness. And acting out or hurting is just a call for attention. Hey, pay attention here. Something is not working.
Yeah.
Maybe a part of my body is dysfunctional. And it needs some attention so that I can heal it. If I give attention to it, what's going to happen? Where attention goes, energy flows. It will actually empower that part of my being. It will actually integrate it with the rest of my organism, which will allow it to function more effectively. It will heal that part of me that was disempowered and weak. Now, if we want to experience that kind of healing and empowerment, we just simply understand that if there is a cry for help, it's not a good reason for blocking it out or building a wall.
Right.
what restricts the flow of energy in our bodies and in our minds is we build too many walls.
Right. Okay.
And so basically we've created our own suffering. We've created our own energy conundrum where the flow, it doesn't flow very easily because there are walls all over the place.
Yes. Yeah. And you brought up a really good point about we are connected to our own energy, meaning that we need to be in the driver's seat of our own life so that energy flows where we want it to go. And when we're having pain and problems or seeing them as problems and obstacles, it's just an invitation then to bring the awareness to that and allow the energy to begin to move in that area, as opposed to blocking and saying, oh, we don't want to look at that anymore.
Yeah. And what does it mean to be in a driver's seat of your life?
For me, it means that I am responsible for my thoughts and my feelings and my actions and my responses, and realizing that many times I'm reacting to things and that unconscious things come up that I wasn't even aware that they were there, but then it gives me an invitation to look at them, and I have choices. Whereas before I didn't realize I had choices, I was just reacting.
So responsiveness and responsibility actually go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Somebody who takes responsibility for one's life is more likely to respond to whatever life presents to them.
Yes.
If a person feels that they're not responsible for what they're feeling, or they're not in charge of what's going on in their lives, they often will react.
Yes.
And a reaction, by definition, is action against oncoming forces. So basically, that's how we lose a lot of energy. We act against the oncoming forces. What kind of forces are those? Whatever challenges we experience in life. Be that a financial challenge, or relationship challenge, or political challenge, or emotional turmoil. If we fight against them, that takes a lot of energy, and that usually doesn't get us anywhere. So instead of reaction, we can actually learn the alternative.
Responsiveness.
And when we become responsive, we also develop much greater ability to engender some positive change.
Yes.
Because we're no longer just wasting energy fighting against what's happening, what's coming at us. We actually are navigating the challenges in a much more intelligent and much more courageous way.
Yes.
By courageous, I mean we actually have the courage to recognize that whatever is going on is not as terrible of a problem as we thought it would be.
Because we can shift our perspective.
Yeah.
Yes. Because we can view what's going on in any different ways. So as we come to acceptance and responsibility, knowing that things are unfolding exactly the way that they need to be, and I am going to do whatever I need to do, or be whoever I need to be in the moment to respond to the situation, to life.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we actually have a certain practice that allows us to embody responsiveness instead of reaction. Like, for example, if you do me a favor and push me, do me a favor and push me with one hand into my stomach.
Like kind of hard, right? So
well, let's see how it works.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, I can push you over.
Yeah. I may also feel like there is more energy flowing to my right, or maybe to my left. And then I need to simply feel where the energy is flowing and go with it. If you push me harder.
Okay.
So what happens is that I just simply pivot around my center. I become really centered, and I no longer get pushed over so easily, because your energy just flows around me instead of pushing me over. What it means is that instead of reacting or pushing back, I actually respond to the ongoing flow of energy. And I feel, okay, it's flowing this way, no problem. Statistically speaking, it's very unlikely you'll be able to distribute absolutely equal amount of pressure on both right and left sides of my body. All I need to do is just feel where the energy is flowing and just turn in that direction, which again doesn't even require my own effort. You are helping me turn. So essentially all I need to do is to accept the fact that the energy is flowing and go with the flow. That's the physical manifestation of being responsive instead of reactive. when you develop this skill, we call it being centered, you actually can experience it not only in the case of someone pushing you, but you just become a walking manifestation of centeredness. So wherever you go, there you're a centered human being. And that's very empowering, because you're no longer taking everything on face value and struggling against it. You just simply delegate the issue to your center. You trust that the center can handle this a lot better than your persona. And so you just simply say, yeah, energy is flowing. Let's see how my center can handle it. Let's delegate it to my center. Not take it personally, just let the energy take its course. And then, no matter how much effort you put into it, you cannot push me over. So this is just a simple but elegant physical demonstration of responsiveness as compared to being reactive. If I respond to what is coming at me, I can actually be still balanced,
Yes.
still comfortable, and just simply change my perspective.
Well, and not see it as a problem. Not seeing it as just something you have to brace yourself for. Like, oh my God, something, you know, I'm a victim, something's going to happen to me. As opposed to, oh, it's no problem.
Well, the funny thing is that when we brace ourselves, when we tense up, we actually become weaker.
Yes.
Just in that example, when you pushed me, when I tense up, I actually become a better target. If we tense up, we're not exhibiting strength. We're actually exhibiting weakness. Most people confuse tension for strength for some reason. And that's one of the reasons why they suffer so much. Is because they just simply do the opposite of what works. If you keep doing the same thing that gives you the results you don't like, but you still expect the results to be the way that you want, well, that's insanity.
Right.
We learn how to actually do the same thing, which is, if something is not working, well, let's try something else.
Yes.
And in this case, the opposite of what everybody does. Well, if you want to get the same results everyone's getting, just keep doing the same thing everyone's doing. If you want better results, you got to do something differently. This is exactly what we're talking about. We change the understanding of whether or not tension is a sign of strength. We realize it's not. It's a sign of weakness, and we stop being so damn tense. Now, it happens physically, but it also happens psychologically, because the muscles in the body don't tense up on their own accord. They're not stupid and just trying to hold us hostage to their tension. It's the central nervous system that's sending signals to the muscles to contract. So what happens is that the central nervous system needs to become less agitated.
Okay.
And then it stops sending so many signals of contraction to the muscles. Then we can physically relax. And it also goes hand in hand with psychological release of strife.
Okay. And so then you're able to tap into your flow much easier because you're not resisting it with tension all the time. Yeah.
I was just talking a few minutes ago about building walls
Yes.
Restricts flow. Well, that's exactly what tension does.
Yeah.
Energy doesn't flow freely through tense tissues and muscles. So if we hold a lot of tension in our bodies, we literally rob ourselves of the experience of flow through our organism. If we don't allow the life force to flow freely through our system, we basically are limiting our ability to live. Simple as that. So we learn how to stop doing that to ourselves, because nobody does tension to us. We are the ones tensing up.
You're right.
We are not the victim of somebody doing tension to us. We just simply decide to stop being so damn tense.
I can let go of that tension.
Yeah.
And stupid expectations and things that don't make sense for me to be doing anymore.
Right.
I can let go of those.
Well, just a minute ago, you also mentioned another really important word that we can dedicate our next dialogue to, and that was the word acceptance.
Yes.
And I think that's going to be the key to a lot of empowerment that we can explore in our next empowerment dialogue.
I love it. Acceptance has been my friend, and it's given me so much peace, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Heidi.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to speaking to you next time.